A long time.
Oh, 11, okay.
Yeah.
He just walked in.
I didn't see him.
He's on the back.
Yeah, you can ask if he wants to sign. Yeah, you can see if he wants to sign.
In and out.
He's here. Work session, but then we wait late. He said, I thought I was supposed to speak.
Was it the tall guy?
No, I don't know. I just read it right in the middle, straight in front of you.
It helps me.
With the blue. Yeah, that's
See,
it.
I'm your best friend.
That's the sailor.
Because remember, it's your king.
That's the sailor.
That's a guy from Bastrop.
Maybe, but he's on the Brandon Cobb's a big guy.
Yeah, so
Oh, that's cool.
it's all, you don't have to read it.
Yeah. That's nice, man.
Just got introduced
Katie
to
gave
it.
it to me.
That's what I said here. You giving it to me?
You can use it. We'll just leave it right here. It don't know what
See you in a second.
read it or not.
Well,
He signed
you know
something,
what
yes.
I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And he was here for public
With the
comment.
blue hat on.
Was he the sailor? I thought he was on Bastrop.
You got USS Rankin County.
Okay. Hey, well, I know, but, you know, she wouldn't be that. She's talking to him.
Who wants to speak?
That,
And I know Brandon Cobb.
Yeah.
That John Beck.
because it says on the very back, it's a striped shirt. You can say that with me.
In the blue? In the purple?
She just introduced herself as Miss Beck.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I think that's what it says wine. Wine would be.
If he was on the USS Rankin.
Yeah.
I know. But
You're right.
instead of, I know we need to make sure that we are.
All right. We'll figure it out. Janice got it straight.
Settle around, they're gonna tell everybody. And so everybody's gonna leave. But the big thing is all these small facilities are homeless, they're not gonna come.
All set?
But I got a bunch of with
No, you're right. You're right. Yep. All right, let's call this meeting to order for the Rankin County Board of Supervisors, September 5th, 2017. I apologize for the delay. Just had to get a few housekeeping things out of the way. We'll start this thing. We're blessed to have Mr. Slay back with us today, so we'll start this thing with our invocation.
Let's start by going to
You ought to be happy up there.
We're so
Ball.
grateful for the opportunity we have to come before you now, to acknowledge your presence here with us, Lord, and to thank you, Lord, for all the many ways that you have abundantly blessed our county. Thank you for these men, for their acts of service that they perform. Pray, Father, you'll give them wisdom and discernment this morning. Father, thank you for our servicemen and women that are fighting for the cause of freedom all around the world. Father, I pray for their protection and their safety, and I thank you for their sacrifice. Help us to honor their sacrifice by exercising our freedoms to participate in our government in the right way. Father, I thank you also for those who are right now laboring and serving in Houston, and those who have lost so much. I pray, Father, for them to be blessed abundantly for their acts of service. Pray also, Father, for further protection of our country, for those in leadership among us. Father, I pray that you would give them wisdom in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Slay. Public comments and recognition. The first one we have on the agenda is Mr. John Beck, who's an officer that served on the USS Rankin. Is Mr. Beck here?
Yes.
Hey, Mr. Beck, if you would, come up to the podium if you don't mind just a second. We've got a resolution honoring your crew, and we want to take a second and thank you for your service. And to tell you to serve on the USS Rankin, look as good and as young as you look today, it's a hats off to you, and we thank you for your service. You know,
Thank you, sir.
That ship being commissioned, you know, in 1945 and serving in the engagement y'all engaged into, we definitely appreciate your service and your courage to serve the people of Rankin County and to carry a ship with our name on it throughout with your 1,500 sailors on board that thing. We're really proud of you very much. And we know you served in a lot of issues with the Sixth Fleet over in Japan and over in that area and around the Cuban Missile Crisis in the 1950s. So thank you so much for your service. Our attorney's got a resolution for you we'd like to speak on just for a second.
So, Ms. Beck, on behalf of the men who have served so faithfully on the USS Rankin, I want to read this resolution that honors the servicemen of the United States Navy who served aboard the towing class attack cargo ship USS Rankin, and declaring September 28, 2017 through October 1, 2017 to be USS Rankin Days in Rankin County, Mississippi. Whereas it is with great pride that the Rankin County Board of Supervisors recognize and honor the servicemen of the U.S. Navy who so ably and capably served our great country aboard the towing class attack cargo ship USS Rankin, a warship named for Rankin County, Mississippi. Whereas the USS Rankin was commissioned during the final year of World War II, serving briefly during the conflict and for 2 years during the post-war transition to peacetime. She was recommissioned during the Korean War and served her country with honor and distinction until her final decommissioning in 1971. And whereas for her service during World War II, the USS Rankin was awarded the American Campaign Medal, the Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal with 1 star, the World War II Victory Medal, the Navy Occupation Service Medal with the Asian clasp, and the National Defense Service Medal and the China Service Medal. During the 8 years of her 1952 recommissioning, the USS Rankin was awarded the Battle Efficiency Award 6 times, including an unprecedented 5 straight from 1956 to 60. By special order of the Commander-in-Chief of the Atlantic Fleet, the USS Rankin sailors were authorized to wear a gold E, signifying 5 straight Battle Efficiency Awards, and the ship wore the gold E on her stack. And whereas the USS Rankin was a very special ship during her time in commission, being characterized by high morale and outstanding performance, many of her captains and officers proceeded to high rank and distinction within the U.S. Navy, including a Medal of Honor recipient, a Navy Cross recipient, and a member of the Blue Angels flight team. And whereas it's with great pride on behalf of all citizens of Rankin County that we, the Rankin County Board of Supervisors, recognize and commend the servicemen of the U.S. Navy who sacrificed willingly for the good of their country, serving with honor and distinction, and representing the great people of the United States aboard the USS Rankin, a warship proudly named for the grateful people of Rankin County, Mississippi. The citizens of Rankin County owe a debt of gratitude to the servicemen aboard the USS Rankin for securing the freedoms that we enjoy. May we never take for granted the great price paid for our freedoms and liberties. May we endeavor to serve our fellow man with a similar spirit of personal sacrifice and devotion to duty as that displayed by the servicemen aboard the USS Rankin. We hereby declare September 28 through October 1, 2017 to be USS Rankin Days in Rankin County. We wish for the servicemen of the USS Rankin gathering in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, a meaningful time of fellowship and reflection as they celebrate their history with this great warship. And that's resolved today, September 5, and signed by each of the supervisors and our Chancery Clerk. Congratulations.
Thank you.
President, I want to say as well that this resolution will also be made available to the reunion that is scheduled. I referenced it here at the end, up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The members of the USS Rankin, along with I think it's 5 or 6 other warships, will also be present for this reunion. Well over 100 men from that era who served on their respective ships will be there, and so it's our honor and privilege to be able to recognize all of the men who served during that time, and we're just so grateful for their service.
Great. Mr. Bay, what we'd like to do also is get a picture with you up front, and what I'd do something a little different. I'd like for us to all step down there with it if we don't
I think
mind.
he wants to say something.
Yeah. and
While
if you
we're
wanna
doing
speak-
that, I'd like to present this to the people of Rankin County
Great.
through the Board of Supervisors, and we want to thank the supervisors and the people of Rankin County for this bonding between the men that served aboard the Rankin County, because it means a lot to them to let them know that their namesake, people are recognizing it. And I know they're going to enjoy this resolution when it's up there.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bay.
Yeah.
We're going to step down here and get some pictures made with you. Sorry about that. Yeah, have a good one. What? Congratulations. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for your service. We really appreciate you very much. God bless
Okay. Okay.
All right. Moving on our agenda. Mr. Cobb, it's a tough act to follow. Follow an American hero, but do your best. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, how are y'all?
Fine.
It's been a wet month. It's been a wet summer. We have continued doing our efforts, our spraying, our surveillance, larviciding. We have been hampered by the rain, hadn't been out as much as we were last year. Fortunately, our numbers are still lower than last year as far as our surveillance is concerned. We did have a West Nile case. We went in, triple sprayed for 3 nights in a row. We've also been back a week later to spray the same area again, making sure that it's any potential is knocked down as best we can. Of course, with West Nile cases, we never know if it happened here or there, but we want to take every precaution. Other than that, things are going rather well. I know y'all noticed last time, and I put in the email this time when I sent the reports, our maps are not what they used to be. And I want to apologize for that. We are working on it. We started out with a computer system several years ago when we started Rankin County. The computers had started failing. This year we got in new equipment, new way of doing it that wasn't compatible with the machines we use, and we absolutely got nothing as far as track record. We've gone back to our computers, put them back in the trucks. They're still spotty. We're working on an alternative system of tracking. That being said, we still have the information coming out of them for what night we sprayed, how many gallons we sprayed, what area we sprayed. We are out there spraying. We just can't give you the maps at the moment, but we are working on that. So any questions for me?
I just have one.
Yeah.
Would you make sure the guys hit that area in Lutney Road around that ball field there? I got another call this weekend.
Okay. I'll make sure when they go to that zone, which should be later this week, that they make sure they go through there real well.
When you do spray, is it at nighttime, dusk, nighttime, those?
Usually between 7:15 and 7:30 is when we get starting, depending on whether it's cloudy or not. We don't want to get out there when it's still bright sun shining, because we want to be out there when mosquitoes are out. We start about 7:30 and spray through about 12:30, 1 o'clock, depending on how long it takes that zone. We have it marked off in different zones, and I have it done. The zones are about one-night sprays, but some take 3.5 hours, some take 5 hours, just depends. But it's usually between 7:30 and 12:30 at night.
Anything else? All right, thank you, Mr. Kyle. We appreciate
Y'all
you.
have a good week.
Thank you.
No, it's been rough on you. Thank you. Item C is Mike Van Landingham. Is he here? No, he was probably running late. Mike Van Landingham?
Well, that's what's
Hey, it
called
worked out just
walking
about
in.
right. Come up to the microphone.
Okay.
We're in the public comment section, so
So you timed it perfect.
worked out just right. So
Well, first of all, good morning, and thank you for hearing me this morning. The issue that I have, a couple of weeks ago, my neighbor across the street installed one of those street lights that you can get from the power company. You pay like $12 a month for, or something like that. We've been neighbors and buddies for, gosh, probably since 2003, since he moved in. I mean, he's about 70 years old, older gentleman. We sit over there, tell fishing lies, hunting stories, and what have you. But he had this light put in, and it's kind of a nuisance. First of all, the night that it was put in, first of all, I come home and saw the pole. I was like, well, this is not going to be no big deal. You know, I'm going to see what happens. That afternoon, we sitting in the driveway waiting for the light to come on. As soon as it got dark enough for the light to come on, I mean, it's very bright, first of all, and my house is probably about 30 yards across the street from his. Well, I noticed the light was lighting up the whole front of my house. It looks like a sunrise. I believe Steve Gaines have probably showed somebody the pictures already. I've emailed him the pictures. But it's really bright, and it looks like a sunrise. You could sit on my front patio and literally it looks like a sunrise, and also it's so bright out there I could probably paint the front of my house and mow my grass at night. And I talked to him about it that evening. I said, Earl, I said, you know, we have to do something about this. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, it's shining all over my house. And he said, well, what do you mean? I'm not going to do anything about it. He said, it's a light. He said, you just, well, I mean, I have the exact words he told me in my phone if you'd like to hear it.
I believe you.
I mean, but he got ornery with me. He basically got belligerent, as you can see the lights right there. And he told me, he said, there's nothing going to be due about this effing light. You're going to have to effing deal with it. That was his exact words, and I'm paraphrasing that and putting it in a nice way because I don't
Right.
use curse words.
Thank you.
But, and I asked him again Friday, the day after. I said, look, we got to talk about this. I said, we got to have some kind of a compromise. I said, it's shining all over the front of my house. I don't want it shining in my windows. I said, you know, what can we do about it? He said, there's nothing going to be done about it. Not you or anybody else can make me do anything about it. He said, you're just going to have to deal with it. And why I'm here today is because I feel like it's messed up the tranquility of my front yard area and my front patio. Those times when me and my wife would sit out on the front porch in the evenings, that means total darkness. And 2001, when we bought the house, that's why I picked that house on that street, because there was totally dark. It was kind of like being in the country. You can look up and see stars, very peaceful, very quiet. And now I feel like the light has kind of ruined the tranquility of my property. And it's, to me, I would think it would be a nuisance, but that's just my opinion.
Okay.
And I was wondering if somebody could write him a letter stating that some adjustments need to be made, because he's not going to listen to me. I tried twice on 2 occasions. He basically said, there's nothing you can do about it. That's the way it is. Deal with it. And I called Central Electric Power Company, and they said they would be more than willing to make the adjustments at no charge to him.
Okay.
But he has to be the one to call them.
Is
What
the light
adjustment?
facing toward your house or his house?
It's facing towards my house. That's the light in his yard right there, and the glow of it is facing towards my house.
Okay.
What adjustment are they referring to? Like taking it out or?
No, they said they could actually reposition the light on the pole to face towards his house. They could put some sort of a guard around the globe to focus it more down on his property. He said they could also use blackout paint.
Blinder that you can put around it to make it to where, I mean, it doesn't cut all the light out, but it'll knock the beam down from a direction. Or, the way I understand this, the light itself is positioned on the pole facing his
Facing
house
my
and
house,
not
right.
the guy that is paying, I mean, it's on his property.
And I've tried to handle this in a friendly, civil, neighborly, buddy way. I mean, I thought we were buddies and friends, but I see at this point, the friendship, I guess it was no longer there. He's just taking the toll. Well, I bought it, I paid for it, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I feel like it's a nuisance.
That's there, is that his garage?
That's his garage.
Where's his house in compared to that?
Well, that's his house right there.
Is it to the left of
That's
the
to the
garage
left.
or the right?
Well, it's to the left. That's his house with his blue truck sitting right there.
Okay.
Huh.
And in my opinion, now, this is just me, I thought the light could be turned around facing more towards his house. I mean, it is his light. And if you scroll back to the picture there on the front of my house, I mean, I could literally paint the front of my house at night if I wanted to.
That's your house?
That's my house.
Wow.
And I put the solar lights out there just, to have a nice ambience type deal. That's the front of my house. That picture was taken that night, probably around 9:30 or 9:45 that evening. That's the first night it came on, and we were all sitting in his driveway that afternoon, cutting up, drinking a root beer or whatever, and whatever. That's what he likes to drink, is A&W root beer. So sometimes I would go buy him a 12-pack A&W root beer, and we'd sit out there and drink root beers and tell lies about fishing and hunting or whatever. But that turned into a problem that night.
All right. Craig, any comments on that? Or?
Yeah, this is not a public nuisance.
Okay.
Obviously, we don't typically address private matters between residents. If it is in fact a nuisance, it would be deemed a private nuisance. That's something that our local court system obviously can handle. And so the solution to the impasse would probably need to be by way of a court action involving an allegation of private nuisance. It's not a public nuisance. We don't, you guys know, we don't deal with street lights. That's not our bag.
Okay.
So that would be my suggestion. There's simply nothing in our regulatory system that will allow us as the county to address that matter. That's a dispute between private individuals.
Okay. Steve, anything?
I'll be honest, I see this the same way as the guy who had the garden in his front yard.
Yeah.
We don't have any legal authority over it, but it still ain't right.
That's right.
So,
Right.
I mean, what harm would it do for us to send a letter?
Oh, it wouldn't do any harm at all.
Okay.
And probably would do as much good given the description that I've heard
Sure.
from the reactions.
It
No
would.
harm and-
But if that would help, I mean, we'll
Yeah,
send
if you,
that.
if you could do that, is there any way I could get a copy of that letter also, or not?
Let us get it drafted, and Steve will get in touch with you.
Okay.
Yeah,
You good with that?
Yeah.
Let me be clear, I don't need Mr. Van Landingham's assistance in drafting the letter.
Right.
I'll be glad to provide him with a copy
Sure,
of the letter that we sent.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Once we get it drafted,
That's fine.
Mr. Gaines will get in touch
That's
with you
fine.
and
That's acceptable.
transfer it over to you.
Because I'm trying to handle it through the legal way, but several people have already instructed me what they would have done in this situation. But I'm not going to go there. I'm not doing it that way.
I didn't say anything.
Yeah. That wasn't your
And
instruction.
I've actually had a realtor come out there and look at the light, and I asked her, because there's a realtor that lives behind us, she sells houses. And I said, would this affect our property value? She said, it could hurt the sale of the house if you ever decide to sell it, because not a lot of people want bright light shining in their windows like that.
Well, just only let them come during the daytime.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Van Landingham, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
We'll be in touch with
Sorry
you.
about that. It's terrible.
Two other items y'all won't see on the agenda of sign-ins for public comments. Mr. Todd Brooks, are you here? Sure, Mr. Brooks, come up to the podium if you would. Hey, good morning. If you would introduce yourself to the board with your living address, please.
Todd Brooks, 148 Dominion Parkway.
Okay.
We have a question of a wildlife variance. Someone trespassed on my property about 3 weeks ago, struck one of my animals. They retaliated. The Board of Supervisors has been given a wildlife variance. The dogs were taken and have been quarantined for about 28 days now. We filled out the documentation to have the dogs approved to follow the laws that were put in place by the Board of Supervisors. And I am here to find out what the results of that vote would be.
Okay. Mr. Slade, do you have any thoughts on that or
Or history, what is, what's it about?
information?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is our typical pit bull situation. And so what we have under our wild animal variance is the way that the county does this, we don't outright ban the dogs. We require specific through specific regulation, we require owners of these animals to go through protective measures on their property. They have to construct a pen enclosure that has at least a chain link enclosure on all sides of the enclosure and the top to keep the animal from escaping. If the animal is outside of the enclosure, it has to be under complete control of the owner. And so that's one aspect of the regulation. The other is that the owner has to carry by mandate a specific amount of homeowners insurance with proof that the coverage on the under the HO policy does not exclude the dog or dogs from coverage. And so I have to go through those policies just to make sure that that it's compliant with that. I've looked at it. There are still some issues with respect to the policy language. We've explained our, I think word was gotten back to Mr. Brooks. If it hadn't, it is now, that we didn't get a copy of the policy. We just got a copy of the deck page, which the declarations page, that shows you what's covered and the extent of the coverage and any exclusions that may be listed, but it doesn't give you the body of the policy. I need to see the policy itself, and I just haven't gotten that back. I know that he's working with his carrier, and the implication is that the dog is covered, but I haven't satisfied myself about that. So that's still pending. Mr. Brooks alluded to a situation apparently involving a neighbor that may or may not have come on the property. I think there's some litigation pending over that. In fact, I'm pretty confident that a lawsuit's been filed. The neighbor, as I understand it, was attacked by the dog or bitten by the dog. Now, there may have been justification for that, but that did happen, and so there's a pending claim. Historically, our policy has been where there is a litigation matter pending, we don't act on a variance request. That's just what we've done in the past. The reason being, obviously, is that we don't want to get between or in the middle of that litigation situation, number one. We don't want to hamstring the judge who's going to be overseeing that case with an argument, well, the county thinks the animal's fine because they gave me the variance, so we just kind of stay out of that deal. So that's sort of where we are. You asked, where are we on this, Mr.
Yes.
President?
Yes.
That's where I understand that we are. So the matter is not before you presently to act on.
Okay.
So Mr. Brooks wanted information, so he's here to get information. About the only information we can give him is, I need a copy of the policy, a complete copy of the policy, and you guys need to decide at some point, you will have an opportunity to decide when the variance request is before you. Assuming the litigation is still ongoing, you will have the opportunity then to decide if it's compliant under the variance. Do you nonetheless want to either go forward or withhold action on the variance in light of the litigation?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Slade. Mr. Brooks, you good from here? Understand further paperwork
I'm in
needs to be
compliance.
received?
The county's already signed off on my pen.
Okay.
The police
Like-
report states that the
Right.
man struck the dog. I mean, you
I
have a
understand,
copy
yeah,
of
and
that.
that's it.
Okay.
So just the deck page for Mr. Slade's group to continue to look at? and-
Just so that the record's clear
The other
too,
paperwork.
Daniel, the variance, the county doesn't sign off on anything.
Okay,
This board acts on the variance,
Sure.
okay? The sheriff's deputy can sign off on the pen enclosure.
Sure.
But the variance is still incomplete because you guys haven't acted on it.
Sure.
And I don't believe you're gonna get a chance to act on it until I get a chance to see that policy. Now, y'all can take it out of my hands if you want to. but,
right.
I'd like to see the policy
Sure.
first, and then we will move forward with the full scope of the variance.
So, Mr. Brooks, what we're doing is basically just tabling this to another time until we get the paperwork in place, and then,
The dogs
the
have
board-
been quarantined every
Sure.
25 days.
Sure.
I've spoken to Mr. Slade.
Sure.
Had no idea. I mean,
Okay.
I've given
Well-
him everything I
I
thought was
understand.
possible
All right,
from my
all right,
insurance.
all right, so today, we understand what all he needs, and we're
Okay.
good. And so you can get that into him, and we meet again, I think, on the 15th, okay? So if we need to bring it back up at that point, we can, or maybe the first of the month of October, just depending on when we get all the stuff in, so.
I'll see you next time.
Great, thank you,
Thank you
Mr.
for your
Brooks.
time.
Yes, sir. Another one I have on the sign-in sheets, Mr. Murray Carr. Mr. Carr, if you would come up to the podium, please. Good morning, Mr. Carr. How are
Good
you?
morning.
All right.
If you would, just introduce yourself to the board and tell us your address.
My name
please.
is Murray Carr. I live at 200 Bassford Lane, Pearl.
Great, good morning. Thank you for coming.
My reason for coming is to, about a month ago, 2 months ago, I requested a 911 address to build a house.
Okay.
This house is for my sister, and I've been informed that since our property, family property, was divided up, that I'm required to develop a subdivision. But my argument is, why should one member of the family be required to build a road to the other family member's property because the property was divided up? Now, I have spent about $8,000 building the road up to the property that I'm going to build a house on. But the other property is beyond the site that I'm going to build a house. And then I'm trying to request an address to build a house. So I don't feel that I should have the responsibility of...
Sorry about that. We're getting a weather alert. Sorry about that. Everybody's phones went off. Sorry about the Amber Alert.
Yes.
Sorry about that, Mr. Carr. Everybody's cell phones, I think, is going to go off on that, regardless of what's going on. Sorry about that. You can continue. on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I started out talking to the lady who issued the address, and then I was referred to the engineer who visited the site, and later I got the supervisor, my supervisor,
Right.
to come down and visit the site, and then the road manager, and I don't know who was with him, a week or so ago, came down and visited the site. Now, I have pictures of the road that I built, and I also have pictures of Basswood Lane. You're asking me to maintain a road, to build a road that will come up to county standards. And I have a problem with that too, because the road that I live, Basswood Lane, is not that highly maintained. It's got, you come in, you patch it, In a couple of days, the school bus come down through there, a couple of neighbors with dualies, and it's back the way it was. And I have pictures, if I can, let you pass around to show you this.
Thank you.
Yep.
Now, my thing is that I should be allowed to build this house, to get an address, to build this house, so my contract and everybody involved can move forward on this. But I'm held, and there's another thing. Once I made this application, all of a sudden I get a call from somebody who wants to buy the property. We are not in this, first of all, I don't own the property. It's my family's property. The rest of the property is my family's. And I'm not in the selling business or the real estate business. Anyways, so I don't have the authority to sell other people's property. Now, I've been working with this property for over 5 years, finally got it divided up with family members and all that sort of stuff. And I'm requesting from you to be allowed to get an address and build this house. And that's my concern. You're asking me to, like I say, to build a road that in the future, if you decide to take it over, it will reach your standards. I'm saying that the other roads that are already there, some of them only 12 feet wide. The main road is 20 feet wide. And then I was told by Attorney Slade that I needed 50 feet. The road that I'm building already, the surface of that road is 25 feet that I've already built up to the site that I'm going to build a house. And it is at the beginning of the family property, not a mile down the road, Okay. So you're denying me the opportunity to build on property that's been in my family over 100 years, that's passed down to 2 or 3 generations. And I'm requesting that you allow me to build my house.
Thank you, Mr. Garner. Mr. Morrison,
Well, you're right, I did come out and visit with you. And the different ones you mentioned have been out there. And I do see your situation. I understand you have this road leads up to other people's property. But I think when you and I talked about it, and I came back and I talked to the engineer and the attorney both, you could build this road to the property you want to do, that you're wanting to build a house on. And it wouldn't be like you're building the road for everybody, because when I looked at it, that just goes to that particular house. And I think you and I even both said, then if it stopped there, and then if those lots or those family member ever decided to develop or build or whatever they want to do with theirs, then it'd be their responsibility then to extend the road. But the road would actually stop at that house. And you, at that time, you indicated that would be something you would be interested in. The question comes up, and I do understand what you're saying as far as some of the roads back in the day were taken, as the engineer and they'll all agree, by prescription, and that's what the road was. And some of them, you're right, they're county roads and they don't meet the 50-foot right of way and all that. In your situation, part of the road's wider, and then it turns off to the right to come down to your house. It does narrow up some, and that was just what the road was. I think since then we've actually discovered that the point of, I guess, where the county actually stops is in a different location according to our maps than, and I wasn't aware of this either, according to our maps, other than where it doesn't come as far as it comes as it looks at your house now. And so that's an issue that's going to have to be addressed. I don't know why you couldn't continue the road, and we talked about that, continue that road, and I believe what was told to you was you would have to build a road that is the same or compatible to what is there now, not necessarily the 50-foot, because you're only going just a short distance to the next lot. But anyway, the attorney And like I said, when I met with you, you know, the engineer, and that's their job, the engineer and the attorney, to kind of help design this or work these things out. We don't make, we lean to them for their advice and their guidance for the better of the roads in the area and for Rankin County. But I do, yours is a little unique situation, but I think we're trying to compromise some to try to help you there. But, you know, some of the pictures you have here are of the part of the road that you're trying to build, where that has that culvert, and I don't know if that culvert has even been sized, is adequate size or anything, and that comes back to the engineer. It's something you'd have to have someone, engineer design and present it to our engineer, and that, I don't think any of those things have been done. And this is not anything that we're asking you to do that's not asked of everybody. I mean, you're not being singled out at all. I want you to understand that. I'm trying to work with you, and I came back and talked to them about some ideas, and so I think that's where we are. We're in the what can we work out idea stage. It's not just something the boards can decide right here today. But I welcome the engineer and the county engineer and the attorney to add in if anything that I may not have said or may not have covered.
I think you covered it. The one other issue is that we've got a water line that was placed very much in close proximity to where the width of the actual pavement would have to be for this road to measure up in any respect to our compliance. So that water line is problematic to begin with. I think either the water line would have to be relocated or the road itself would have to be shifted over away from the water line, which is probably the answer, to be quite honest with you, instead of trying to get somebody in there. But the last thing we want is for a water line to end up underneath the pavement.
Right.
We try to avoid that at all costs. As you can imagine, any issue with that water line, you're not just having to mess with the water line, you're having to tear the road up. And so these are reasons, that's one example of why we have to be on top of what is happening with respect to development activity. Once it gets covered up, there ain't a thing in the world we can do.
Well, may I say something?
So
That water line that you observed is temporary to get water up there for the contract. It was never meant to be a permanent water line in the first place.
that's good. That's good.
All right.
And so that may not be the issue that we think it is. The solution as put forward, as I understand it, Jared, that I think is workable, is let's get that roadway, that piece of the road that is going to serve this new house, let's get that to a standard that at least approximates what Basswood, the public part of Basswood is, by way of the width of the pavement and the appropriate right-of-way, and let's address a suitable turnaround at the point that we stop the road. A suitable turnaround that will allow for...
Explain that. Yeah, I forgot to cover that.
Yeah, the issue for us, obviously, is that somebody who is maybe looking for an address or a house, and they get themselves nosed up in there, and they don't have a way in the world to get turned around.
Or emergency vehicles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the big question for us. And any other public service of any kind is going to need a way to turn around. So we need to both address the condition of the strip of the private road that will be extended to this new house site and an appropriate turnaround. And I believe we can solve the issues.
I do understand that, and after looking at it, I understand that I'm on your side as far as these additional lots or other families, and you all split all the property up, and you have no tie to them personally. So I think what we're really looking at is addressing what it's going to take to get to you, and then if ever they go any further, then they'll be back in the same setting, working on what we can do to extend the road to serve our home or the property we want to sell. So right now, we're really only looking at what's going to take for you to do what you want to do, not what and we don't want to expect you to do for them. So my suggestion really would be, I think, is to, you can have another sit down or whatever. We can set it up with the attorney and engineer, or you can get an engineer and find out what you need to do. and then have an engineer draw up, do whatever they need to draw up and size the culvert and that kind of thing, because the emergency vehicle side is what really concerns all of us. If there were a fire or whatever, they got to be able to get in there to save or protect the lives. And so that's my suggestion at this point, that maybe we need to have a sit down and go over a checklist of just what these are the steps you need to take, and then let you go start addressing those. And we'll see what we can do to work with you on that.
Okay, well, when can I have the sit down?
Well, we can schedule that. I mean, we can go. I mean, I can't give you a date today because I don't have the calendar. But I mean, real soon. I mean, it wouldn't be a problem. I would think, if not this week, the very first of next week. I had to check the engineer and the attorney's calendar, see how it is. I mean, we'll see how it is. It won't take long.
Okay.
But what we need, we have your name and address and your phone number and all, and we'll just contact you, and I'll leave it with them right now to work out a time. Ms. Jansen.
On there, Dan?
Yeah.
I've got an
It's
email
not
address.
on here, but I have a.
You got a contact number?
Mm-hmm. Well, he's
Sherry's
had
got
our
a contact number.
Yeah, we got a contact
Okay.
number. But if not, just you can give her a contact number now if you want us to write it down.
601-519-5553.
Give that to me one more time, Mr. Carl.
601-519-5553.
Okay.
Now you just gave your cell phone number out to everybody.
Everybody be calling you now.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Carr, thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll see what we can get worked out for you.
Great, thank you. The only other thing I was going to mention on public comments, and in my short time on the board, I've never seen this done, but I'm going to take just a second and recognize Mr. Hayes for a birthday yesterday. I know probably one of the most compassionate, loving men we got that wants to show up at every single Rankin County Board of Supervisors. He makes more meetings than Jay does. So I want to wish you happy birthday from that standpoint right there. So, but let's get started early. That's right. So, Mr. Hayes, happy birthday to you. I know it's not on the agenda, but if I'd totally just be upset with myself if I didn't mention it to you. So happy birthday to you. All right. Any other public comments?
Yeah.
No other public comments out of Bishop over there. All right. Okay, old business, section number 4. I had a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Morrow, second by Mr. Gaines. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody disagrees, make a vote now. How about that? All right. Consent agenda. Got a motion by Mr. Morrow.
Mr. Brown knows I second that.
And Mr. Bishop, thank you very much for the second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed with a like sign. Motion passes. Item number 6, Mr. Slay. Again, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be here. Appreciate you guys being understanding of my crazy schedule. This is our public hearing on our proposed fiscal year 2018 budget. We do this each year, and so at this time I will ask, is there anyone present who wishes to be heard on the matter of the budget for the fiscal year 2018, the Rankin County budget fiscal year 2018? Is there anyone who wishes to speak to the board on that matter?
Lucky you.
Anyone? Mr. President, I don't see anyone here to address the board with respect to the FY18 budget, and so we will close that public hearing. You'll have an opportunity to act on it later.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Slay. Item number 7, Mr. Sullivan.
Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
4 items. A, order approving the 2017 recapitulation for the real and personal property assessment.
Got a motion by Mr. Marr to approve.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bishop. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed with a like sign. Item passes. Item B, Mr. Sullivan.
Petition for change the assessment of 2016 real property assessment.
So move.
Got a motion by Mr. Morrison.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bishop. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with a like sign. Item C, Mr.
Request
Sullivan.
approval of the application for the 2016-17 and the authority to expend 1 mil according to section 2739 329B.
So moved.
Got a motion by Mr. Bishop, second by Mr. Morrow. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with a like sign. Item C passes. Item D, Mr. Sullivan.
I request to board the 2016 tax sale and refund tax sale purchaser for PIN numbers 14429 and PIN number 63489.
So move.
All right.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Morrow, second by Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with a like sign. Item D passes. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
Thank y'all.
Item number 8, Mr. Mike Harrison. Good morning, Mike.
Make a motion to approve work schedule accomplished.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bishop and a second by Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with a like sign. Item B, Mr. Harrison.
Request utility permit along Burnham Road off Shiloh.
Motion.
All right. Motion by Mr. Morrison.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gaines. Any further discussion?
I have a question. Why are they laying copper now? Those last
Just
two
gonna
you've
be-
done is copper.
Just gonna be a little old service line to a house is what it is,
Okay.
Jay.
All right.
That's all these are right here.
Okay.
Old Fanny Road, same deal?
Yeah, yep, that's what it's showing on the map right there when we went out there and looked at it, just service going. A lot of this is just some fiber, little old fiber stuff. But I know this is copper right here they're doing.
All right, that's it.
All right. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with a like sign. Item C.
Request approval for utility permit, construction copper telephone line, down Bridlewood and Woody Lane.
All right. I'll make that motion.
Second.
A second by Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with a like sign. Item C passes.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Item number 9, Mr. Parker. It sure is good to see you again. You're looking good.
I wouldn't go that far now.
Well, he's looking better. How about that?
I'm glad to be here.
Good to see you, Mr. Buster.
Thank you, sir.
Glad you're healthy. Item A.
Okay, item A, Coventry, Part 1, I'm recommending approval of that final plat, and we have a letter of credit in the amount of $37,962.59.
So moved, I think. Is that
Okay.
mine?
I'll second whoever's
All right.
Yes,
All right, so we got a motion by Mr. Morrow, and a second by Mr. Bishop. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Yes.
Any opposed with a like sign. Item A passes. Item B.
Item
Rowan
B.
didn't even know it.
Oak Creek Plantation, I'm recommending approval of that preliminary plat.
So moved.
All right, got a motion by Mr. Morrow,
Second.
second by Mr. Bishop. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with a like sign.
Thank you. Next item is Freedom Ridge, Part 1 and 2. I'm recommending approval of that preliminary plat.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Got a motion by Mr. Gaines and a second by Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed with a like sign.
Thank you. Next item is Vintners Crossing, Stage 3. I'm recommending approval of that preliminary plat.
Great, I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
A second by Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed with a like sign.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Greenfield Crossing, Parts 3 and 4, and I'm recommending approval of those construction plans.
So moved.
Yeah, motion by Mr. Morrow, second by Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed with a like sign. Item F.
Item F, and this is something that was added to the agenda under me on Oak Grove, I think maybe to make some type of potential, take some action or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, that's what we discussed some time ago, those drainage projects that
Correct.
we could legally do over there. And y'all graciously allowed me to put it back on the agenda. I would like to put forward a motion to approve the work that was presented. I think it's total like $1 million. Yeah. Which would come out of drainage.
What did we discuss? The first time? I mean, I remember the cameras and the stuff and
Cameras.
looked and,
Cameras went through it and they saw the deterioration.
right.
And
remember
they gave, it was two phases. There's two portions of it. Actually, I mean, it's two different, it was two different things.
2 phases.
Well, no, it was just two different areas, and one was one amount and one was another. Combined, they came to about what he said.
One of the roads we're going to have to replace it all. The other one we're going to go in and line the pipe. Is the plan.
I'm going to second the motion by Mr. Bishop. We'll go into discussion on that. How about that?
All right.
All right. So,
Chris, you want to kind of give everybody an update on what it was to refresh everybody's memory?
I'll come to help, Mr. Parker.
Bail me out, baby.
Well, the two roads we're talking about is, one is Acorn Lane, the other is Oak Road Drive, and these are all pipes that are inside the county's right-of-way. So there were some portions of the pipes that could actually be repaired with lining, but there were some that were beyond that, needed to be taken out. So I think the cost on Acorn Lane to do that work was $480,000, and the cost on Oak Road was $640,000 for the estimates to do that work.
And I realize there's bigger issues there in Oak Grove. And what we're hoping with these pipe replacements is going to keep it moving faster or get it where it needs to be.
Well, especially on Acorn Lane, the pipes in there and that are in such bad shape, you're in danger of losing part of the road.
Oh, okay. All right.
That you could have road collapses.
Gotcha.
I think Mike deals constantly with issues of filling in potholes right off the back of the curb. There's inlets that pipe separated from. So
Okay.
the issue is they're going to have a very costly effect on the roads if something isn't done.
Then the other is the main drive down through there, which is all concrete. And then if y'all remember, that was all, you could see where we had went and put foam on every single joint the whole way down. So, that's, we've done everything we can do. But, we still have a total of $3 million at least of work that needs to be done there. We just legally currently cannot do anything else. So,
I'm good.
All right. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the like sign.
thank y'all.
Thank you.
Action passes. Item 10, Mr. Slay. We'll set a public hearing with item 8.
Yes, sir. First item is to set a public hearing for October 2, 9 a.m. for text amendments to the Rankin County zoning ordinance.
Now, got a motion by Mr. Moore, second by myself. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the like sign. Item B, public hearings, Mr. Slay.
Item B is a public hearing on the Sam Courtney rezoning request, Bellafleur Drive. That is in District 1. Mr. Courtney is seeking to rezone 4 parcels on Bellafleur Drive from RE1A to RE1. These parcels total 49.50 acres and range in size from 9.75 to 20 acres. Bellafleur is a private drive. The RE1A district does not allow development of subdivisions. It may be considered as a transitional area and can be considered for rezoning, and these parcels will be used for new home sites. This time we'll open that public hearing, and I'll ask, is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the Sam Courtney rezoning request? Anyone to speak in opposition? Mr. President, I don't see anyone here to speak in opposition. Unless you have questions about that matter, we'll close that public hearing. At this time, it'd be appropriate to take
I
action.
make a motion to approve.
And a motion by Mr. Morrison to approve.
Second.
And a second by Mr. Bishop. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the like sign. Item B passes. Item C, Mr.
Item
Slay.
C is a public hearing on the Gwendolyn Franklin conditional use permit, 3857 Highway 43 North. This is a District 2 parcel. Gwendolyn Franklin is seeking a conditional use permit to replace an existing manufactured home with a new single-wide manufactured home at 3857 Highway 43 North. It's a 5-acre parcel zoned RE1. She is applying for the conditional use permit under the hardship section. She takes care of an elderly mother and the sister who are both in need of constant care. This time we'll open that public hearing. I'll ask, is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the Gwendolyn Franklin conditional use permit? Anyone to speak in opposition? Mr. President, I see no one here to speak in opposition on that matter. We'll close the public hearing. At this time, it'll be appropriate to take action.
Thank you. I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the like sign. Item C passes. Item D.
Item D is a public hearing on the Pamela Hervey conditional use permit, McCullough-McClin Road. This is District 3. Ms. Hervey is seeking a conditional use permit to construct a 3,990 square foot office building for her business, Compassionate Homemaker and Respite Care. Property is located on McCullough-McClin Road. It's a 1-acre parcel zoned A1. All employees will work out in the field and do not work out of the office. On a normal day, approximately 4 to 6 people will be in the office. Clients do not come to the office. The building will be a wood frame with a metal exterior, and the front will have some stone wainscoting. This time we'll open that public hearing. I'll ask, is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the Pamela Hervey conditional use permit? Anyone to speak in opposition? Mr. President, I don't see anyone here to speak in opposition on that matter. At this time, we'll close the public hearing. It'd be appropriate to take action.
Quick question before we move. Conditional use means that if she ceases, if operation ceases to exist, somebody's got to come back to the board and seek approval to For a different use? Okay, so moved.
Okay, we've got a motion by Mr. Morrow.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gaines. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed to the like sign. Item D passes. Item E, Mr. Slay.
Item E is a public hearing on the Richard Lindsay Jr. Conditional Use Permit, 126 Rickles Lane. That's a District 4 parcel. Mr. Lindsay is seeking a conditional use permit to place a single-wide manufactured home at 126 Rickles Lane. He wants to be sure that he can be approved for this use before he starts looking for a home. It's a 1.06 acre parcel zoned RE1. We'll open the public hearing. I'll ask, is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the Richard Lindsay Jr. Conditional Use Permit request? Anyone to speak in opposition? Okay, Mr. President, I see no one here to speak in opposition on that matter. We'll close the public hearing. At this time, it'd be appropriate to take action.
Board wish to entertain a motion?
Yeah, well, before I do, Renee, remind me exactly where we're talking about here. I know that I should remember, but I don't.
471 by, I think it's Magnolia Road. There's a cell tower over there. It's across from that Marsden, I think is the name of that road. Across
Yep,
the
yep,
opposite
okay, yep. Yeah, I'll make a motion, we approve it.
Got a motion to approve by Mr.
Second.
Gaines, second by Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed to the like sign. Item E passes. Item F, Mr. Slay.
Item F is a public hearing on the Jim Bro rezoning request, Harold and J.C. Prestige Road. That's a District 4 parcel. Mr. Bro is seeking to rezone 395 acres on Harold and J.C. Prestige Road from A2 to RE1. Property has been subdivided into 18 lots. The minimum lot size is 10 acres, but the majority of the lots are 20 acres or larger. He's proposing a minimum heated and cooled square footage of 1,750 square feet. A set of restrictive covenants is included in the application. This time we'll open the public hearing. I'll ask, is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the Jim Bro rezoning request? Anyone to speak in opposition on that matter? Okay. Mr. President, I see no one here to speak in opposition. At this time, we'll close the public hearing, and it will be appropriate to take action.
That's that 1,000 square foot home?
No, it was 1,700, but we met and discussed that, and that was not what we agreed to. There's a road, also a county road that goes through this, and we talked about ending it before it went to the very end, and I found out that road is actually used by the local farmers to get to their field. If we cut it off, they'd have no access to their farm. So that road's got to go through with a turnaround at the end where the bean fields start. But we do need to come together on that square footage before we go any further, because that was not the agreement that we had when we left here.
Right. So this
I'd
is...
say table it or whatever we need to do until we get that resolved.
Okay.
Okay.
Second.
A motion to table by Mr. Gaines, second by Mr. Bishop. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed to the like sign. Motion passes to table item F. Item G.
If I may, I've got one other to add that's in the nature of a request on a conditional use.
Okay.
And I'm probably going to have to get Renee to help me.
Yeah.
This is on a gentleman named Ivan Rutledge.
Right.
Mr. Rutledge?
He's here.
Okay.
We need a motion or anything to add it to the agenda, Mr. Slade?
Yes, sir. Let's add that item, the Ivan Rutledge conditional use request. Let's add that to the agenda, please.
Okay. A motion to add it to the
I'll make a
agenda
motion to add it to the agenda.
by Mr. Morrison.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bishop. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the like sign. So it's added to the agenda. Now, Mr. Slade.
All right, this is a matter involving a 3-acre parcel. It's presently zoned A1. What does he want to do with this one?
Well, it's a 6.55 acre parcel. He's wanting
Thank you,
to
John.
mine 3 acres.
right.
He's digging a pond on that property, and he estimates he'll be in there 3 months, 90 days tops. He's here.
He's just trying to get yeah.
Yeah, he has his
Mining permit.
paperwork with DEQ.
This would be an exempt mine operation. It's to construct a pond?
Right.
Okay.
3 acres.
Got a motion by Mr. Morrow to approve.
Second.
By Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the like sign.
Can
Wait.
I
Yes, sir.
back us up just a
Wait a
second
minute.
and ask, is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the Ivan Rutledge conditional use request? Anyone to speak in opposition on that matter? All right,
No.
for the record, we
We've
had
already
a public
voted,
hearing
Slay.
and
We
we
already voted.
closed it.
Are there any conditions?
Want to make a motion?
Are there any
Yeah.
conditions?
Y'all do well anticipating things like that.
Y'all have already ran it through? Y'all are good? All right, item G.
Item G is the authorization of the Office of Community Development to waive our building permit fees associated with the residence that's being constructed as a part of the nonprofit St. Jude Dream Home in exchange for the county having access to their promotional materials in the nature of advertising county resources. So it's a like-kind exchange, if you will. We'll waive the permit fees. They will provide space for the county to advertise resources as a part of the St. Jude Dream Home promotional materials.
Okay. Board wish to entertain a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Got a motion by Mr. Morrow, second by Mr. Gaines. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the like sign. Item G passes. Ms. Laura? Thank you, Mr. Slay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. The
Welcome
first-
back again.
I think he really missed you, man.
I really did, man.
First item I have this morning is approval to
Gotta
adopt
get
the
a sheriff
FY
around these
2018 budget in the amount of $177,024,239.
So moved.
Got a motion by Mr. Morrow,
Second.
second by Mr. Gaines. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the like sign. Item A passes. Item B.
Authority to publish the combined budget for publication.
So moved.
Got a motion by Mr. Bishop,
Second.
second by Mr. Morrow. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the like sign. Item C.
Authority to adopt the FY18 tax levy of 40.24 mills for the county taxes, which represents a 0 mill increase over FY17, and 56.55 mills for the Rankin County School District, which represents a 5 mill increase, and authority to publish.
So moved.
Got a motion by Mr. Morrow,
Second.
second by Mr. Bishop. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have one question. Is there any way that we might next year can put something extra in the paper that explains that there is no tax increase?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Because
I bet I got a dozen calls on the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yep.
So
The way the
I know legally we got to put in there, but I'm just asking, we put a little something extra to explain.
Well, the ad itself has to be styled tax increase at the top, even though there's not. There was a paragraph in there that says the county won't be raising any, that the raise will be for the school district.
yeah, I just think a lot of people don't read the whole paragraph, you know. So
Maybe we just put it in
Obviously,
bold next time.
Well, just like it was in the paper, it came out that we haven't decided whether, we hadn't decided whether we were going to increase millage. We didn't think we were. And then right under it, it says 5 mills or something for the school district. So they're so combined, it's almost confusing that it appeared like we hadn't decided, but oh, now we have.
Guys,
Nowhere it says we didn't decide.
we poured over those AG's opinions, and to an opinion, they have said this is the way the legislature has designed the publication notice, and you have to follow it.
If we get together and pay for the ad ourselves, can we
we
style
can
it?
do that. That's right.
You know,
I'm already
maybe-
thinking
maybe
through that,
Yeah.
Steve.
on the next page or
Yeah.
below it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
I think if,
Color
as
photo.
long as it's very
I'll pay
clear,
for it.
Absolutely.
as long as it's very clear that you guys are doing that, not in your capacity as members of the Board of Supervisors, but in your individual capacity, that we could probably look at that.
Cattle farmer.
Yeah.
It could be paid by individuals, and we'd be the
Absolutely.
5 individuals.
Count me in. Sign me
Don't call
up.
me first.
So you're giving them my number then.
So John's going to contribute also.
So it goes 6 ways. We're 6 ways now rather than 5. So
And the tax assessor had nothing to do with this.
Yeah. Oh, I got them a thing. I can't, y'all got to quit going up on my taxes.
Unfortunately for John, whatever millage y'all come up with, he gets to decide what the value applied to that is, and so that's where he's going to have trouble.
all right. Did we vote on that, or are we still discussing?
No, we haven't.
All right. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The like sign. Item D.
Authority to pay JH&H Architects for the invoice number 17-0171 for 50% of the schematic design in the amount of $122,530 for the Rankin County misdemeanor facility, and authority to issue that check.
So moved.
Got a motion by Mr. Morrow, second by Mr. Gaines. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The like sign. Item D passes. Item E.
Authority to
Ms. Oster.
publish the notification requirements of MCA 27-39-203 required during a reappraisal year in order to receive our homestead reimbursement funds.
Got a motion by Mr. Morrow, second by Mr. Gaines. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the like sign. Item F.
Approval to accept the FY16 audited financials from Herzog CPA Company and authority to execute the letter.
Motion approved.
Got a motion by Mr. Bishop. Second by Mr. Morrow. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the like sign. Thank you, Ms. Oster. Additional business, Mr. Wedgeworth. Good morning, Bob.
Real quick, excuse me, AT&T has approached me. They want to come down and do a presentation for you. As y'all may be aware, they are getting out of the landline business. Matter of fact, they won't even install the landline or the copper into subdivisions anymore. But they've got a couple things they want to upgrade, mainly moving to wireless. We're going to, well, hadn't seen my approved budget, but we're planning on adding some additional call-taking ability over at the Sheriff's Office dispatch, and they wanted to just discuss those with y'all and upgrading to some fiber. There'll be some cost savings, but as always with AT&T, I estimate after those cost savings go on for about a year, there will be an increase.
Where is this they want us to propose changing?
From the IT to the Sheriff's Office. They're going to have to bore some lines underneath there and do some connectivity stuff both there and to the EOC. And basically, they petitioned the FCC, I think, in 2015 to get out of the wireline business. Only their subsidiaries and subcontractors are going to be doing wireline. So everything's going to, is it going to be fiber optic or wireless operating on the cloud, on the internet? And that's coming, and there's just some more of that technology that's coming down the road, and there's we're going to have to get on board and start building our infrastructure to get ready for it, because it's on the way. And I just wanted to approach you guys and give you kind of the heads up that they're wanting to come and discuss this with y'all.
All right.
So you say the federal government let them off the hook on having to maintain all the
Oh, no,
wire?
sir, they put them, they're
still there?
AT&T's got enough lobbyists, they're going to get it done. What they did was they delayed it another 2 years, I believe.
Okay.
So instead of them being out of the business in 2020, I think it's 2022 that they'll be going out.
All right, so I think that's is that item 2, discussion of recommendations for the AT&T plan? Item
Yeah.
number 1 was the authority to move the EOC command center to the statewide drill.
Oh, yeah, we're
So-
going to do there's going to be a statewide drill out at, over in Scott County, and we're going to be heading that up using the our mobile command as the command staff for this drill for central Mississippi.
Okay. Laura, do you need a motion to approve that EOC to go out of the county?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, I'll make that
Motion
motion.
approved.
Yeah,
Second.
Second by Mr. Morrison. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the like sign. All right, so item 2 was discussion of the recommendation for the AT&T plan to merge with the Metro Ethernet network.
Right.
That's what we just talked about?
Right, yeah.
So we've had that discussion.
Yep.
All right, so anything else discussion-wise on the satellite Viper mode, with additional trunk line?
Yeah, you've got your.
You got those down there?
Yeah, sorry, they were out.
Because there was no action on item 2, right, Ms. Laura?
Right.
Yeah, so discussion for number 3?
Yeah, number 3, like I said, that's the upgraded Viper mode. What they want to do is still in the connectivity, and like I said, depending on how my budget turned out, I think we've got that, adding the 6 additional lines over at the sheriff's office.
Okay.
I think we've got that in this year's budget, but I got to.
All right, let me ask you a question. Since we're
Yes.
talking about communication side of that deal, where are we at up in Lake Harbor as far as the communication sides of that deal?
They're doing
We
the
still having those
engineering on-
gaps, or?
Yeah, they're supposed to have done the engineering, and I'll double check on that for the mobile. Well, there's 2 site plans. They're supposed to have a mobile site, a small site that they have been developing, that they spoke to y'all about at the last meeting.
Right.
And I don't know where they are on the
actual turning that product out.
Can
We didn't want to spend good money after bad and, install the mobile ones when we can have a mini site.
Yeah, the
already done.
mini site would be better. But can you speak to Motorola and get a timetable? 'Cause
Yeah, I'll talk to
it
them.
drives me insane for those guys up in Lake Harbor not to be able to talk.
Yep, I'll follow up with them on that today.
Okay. All right,
But
item.
and on that same note, I wish you'd go ahead and touch base all around the county if you
Well, I thought
already
we had
had.
the same issue down in Florence.
Right,
didn't
we have, but I
It's two-
think it's been resolved. But and I say that because it was, and I've hadn't heard nothing.
Yeah. Okay.
But sometimes they'll go, well, it doesn't look like we're ever gonna get it fixed, so we just do the best we can. I just wanna make sure
Yeah.
that
But
everybody,
Like I said, we're
there are
kind
no
of
blitzes.
on hold waiting on that development because I don't want to make a motion to, put those mobile transmitters out there and then
Well, the
all of a
mobile
sudden-
transmitters, I don't know is the right fix because
Well, that's-
it's only going to have one channel until you go back to your mobile site and then flip
And that's
over,
why I'm trying to do
yeah.
the-
I'd really go the mini site to where
That's-
I think that's a lot better.
Yep, that's what
It's more
I'm,
user friendly.
that's what I'm trying to,
I just don't want to waste too much more time up in
Yeah.
Lake Harbor not having them with comms or wherever else we got them.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Let's just go ahead. That way, if it's something we need to do, we can do a package do.
right.
I agree.
Yeah. And on the last one would be, going down to the 911 conference. And I hope y'all get my replacement picked in, but if you do, get them to join me down there. I'll give you an example of the importance of this conference. Alabama this year, some of their counties will be receiving $2.50 per landline or per cellular device or per connectivity of device on their 911 system, where we're getting 67 cents
Wow.
on the dollar. And we need to find
Because
out.
they went to the meeting and we didn't.
Well, I mean, it's a lot to do with the legislature. And I mean, we need to get, some copies of that law and find out, exactly how they got it passed. Right now,
Have we spoken to our Rankin County delegation on it?
I have spoken to them.
What'd they say?
Well,
They're studying it.
Yeah, some of them are studying it, but we're steadily falling behind, and I think this would be a great. And I hate to say this, but I think the reality is, this is going to be a real feather in someone's hat during the statewide elections that are upcoming, and hopefully they've done the peer committee report, so they've already got that. They've been told what to do. And the question is, who's going to do it and who's going to reap the rewards from it. And, this would be significant across the state of Mississippi to turn up the 911 and do the multi-jurisdictional and increase the funding. Who's going to be the one that reaps the benefits? There's 2 or 3 that are really going to be in line to, I think, benefit politically from this move. And it should happen within the next 2 years.
All right. All right, item 4. We're still talking about that now, I guess, the
Right.
the Orange Beach strip.
Yeah.
All right, so any other discussion on that?
How is this going to benefit us? How are you going to, this conference, tell me how this is going to help us.
Well, we don't do one in Mississippi, so that's one that, actually, we do one in Mississippi, but it costs about $200 more to go to Tunica. So this is actually cheaper than going to Tunica.
I mean, do y'all have lobbyists you're going to put forward to try to get this passed? Or?
They do. Working with Mr. Smith from the Supervisors Association. I mean, same guys we worked with last year. I'm sorry, Mr. Gray, not Mr. Smith. Working with those guys, but we've got to get, we apparently got to have to copy the Alabama plan because we're not getting it done here.
It's all the counties in Alabama get that 260 or whatever.
250.
250.
Yeah, I think the majority of them do. I think some get more, some get less, but they have the right, their board has the right to petition and assign what they get.
I know you've been working on this for several years, and I was just curious how you going, what's the benefit, what are you going to do for us down here, I guess?
I mean, that's where I meet with the people to talk. I mean, there is no meeting in Mississippi. Well, there is a meeting, but I mean, and I hate to say they're ineffective, but they're not quite as effective as the Alabama people are.
I guess my question is on the same side with you retiring and a month and
that's
a half
why-
after that, should we send someone else rather than yourself? Or?
Well, Melissa's going to be there. She's not listed, but her being the president of the CMRS board, she goes with the and represents the CMRS board. So
we do have a representative down there.
yeah, you're going to essentially have, you know, 2 people down there. But like I said, a lot of her time is spent on the technical side, where a lot of mine is spent on the political side.
Well, he knows some of the people that she wouldn't know too, I would imagine. I mean, I think it's kind of like, you know, when we go to the supervisors conference or PDD, you know, some of the things you can't say you gain this huge wealth of knowledge, but you learn so many things that if you weren't there, I know in my personally over the years, if I was not there, I would not have learned these things. And I think that accumulation and the influence or the people you think that are influential that you learn, and I think it works out well, and you do come back with a lot of knowledge if you go to, you know, attend the meetings and attend things that you the ones that you need to. So
I make a motion
just got
to
to
approve.
two and go back and forth.
Got a motion by Mr. Morrow to approve, second by Mr. Bishop. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just make sure, get us it approved, and, you know, that's all.
We want at least $3 a
Well, I mean, I'm gonna need you guys, like I've said before, we've had this discussion before. When this comes back up, I'm gonna need you guys in the fight.
How long have we been at, like, about 60 cents?
Oh, God.
I mean, we hadn't had an increase,
Since
what I'm saying, in a long time.
1996, when we started doing
That's what I'm saying, we've not
Yeah.
had any increase
Yeah.
since the beginning.
Yeah, we just put in 3 years ago the internet connectivity
Right.
charge.
You know,
And
what
we're
a big deal
way
in
below
96.
on that.
Yeah.
Well, 96, there wasn't that many mobile lines.
And you're talking
That's
about, you're talking
ridiculous.
about hundreds of million, I mean, not for Rankin County, but the
That's
state,
ridiculous.
you're talking about
We've been at
millions
96
of
cents.
dollars.
I mean, 60 cents.
All right, I mean, I'll just say before we vote, I mean, I'm against it because of the time frame side of everything, but any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign, be aye. Any gains will be against. Anything else under additional business? All right, great.
Make a motion to go into executive session.
We
Second.
got a motion by
Discuss the need.
Motion by Mr. Morrow to discuss the need to go into executive session. Second by Mr. Bishop. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the like sign. All right.
All right, Tim, tell Chris to get to work.
Just get in line. So that was all fun? That's all fun? Hey, come here.
Well, we can't force them to do it. Just like we didn't make the people come down. Oh, they did? Well, still,
What's the difference in the thing in a court?
we listed specifically. That's how it is. Just like this is not specifically. The light on that picture, but the light don't even go in the dude's house.
I know,
that
he's got
put
it
it
face.
up.
That's why I said he's got
It only hits his
facing-
like garage, and that's it.
It's facing this guy's house. They could turn it around on the pole.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's, the electric company said, look, we'll turn it or we'll put a blinder on the backside.
They
He said,
put a
no,
blinder.
I want it just like
Well,
this.
if they put the blinder on it the way it's facing down, it would do no
Right,
good.
they need to just turn it up.
Yeah, because the blinder won't work. I can see that. Because you take it off the road all the way.
I tell you what, I
You know?
can shoot that thing out.
I didn't.
Hey, man, how are you?
Everything good?
Yeah, man.
Get sunburned?
You know better than that, man.
Good to see you.
Yeah. Golly.
We flood in. It's great.
This
You know, I
is-
told him, I said, you know, if you thank me, I talked to you over that. But for that, hey, look, I'm already here.
You're right. Well, I mean, the only thing I think that benefit us is if we do have to get them to put some money into making this happen. You know, they're a task organization. You know, we're giving that to your man.
Hell yeah.
Oh shit, 7 o'clock, I get a check. They're rolling.
Who's rolling?
You know, the history
Oh.
I'm like, they ain't working.
That's right, they only have one of those?
Yeah.
They only have one?
Once they make the.
Yeah.
So you can forget about me. Once they make the motion to go into, that's when.
Okay, y'all ready to make a motion to go into as we turn the light out? I make a motion to go into executive session to discuss litigation.
All right, got a motion by Mr. Morrison to go into executive session. Second by Mr. Morrow. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the like sign. We're in executive session when Miss Janice turns the
Red light off.
lovely light.